So not too long ago, we made a video and I was talking about why it was I wasn't picking up the Pixel 4 or Pixel 4 XL yet. And I put the word yet in there because, look, I know myself, I know the way that I tend to be, and any choice that I make around hardware isn't always going to be something that's going to be set in stone, especially just the way that I behave with electronics. And so because of that, and because of the fact that I put the word yet in there, I caved and, well... So you may be asking, why is it you chose to go back to the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL after making that video about all the issues that you see in it? Well, it comes down to a handful of things. So from a software and hardware perspective, there are some things that are better about the 4 and 4 XL than I initially thought, and there are some things that Google has fixed. So let's talk about a few of those things. Like, there's a forehead on there. Well, that's not going to go away, and I still don't like that, but I can get used to that. That's not a huge deal breaker for me. The choice to leave out the wide angle camera, that can't be fixed either, and I really wish they had one, but the cameras that I've seen around, and this is excluding the iPhone, the Android cameras that have wide angle lenses on them, the pictures are actually pretty muddy and not great, so the lenses themselves aren't that good, so I don't think I'm missing anything too big on that front either. But there are a few things that I looked at other reviews and thought, man, this is going to be rough, like battery life and screen brightness. Well, I've been outside with the Pixel 4 and 4 XL, and I've not had any issues with screen brightness. It's actually a little brighter than the 3 was, and I didn't have too many issues with it either, so that hasn't been an issue. The 60 to 90 hertz issue that some people are saying, hey, after 75% brightness, it goes down to 60 hertz, and it looks like a normal display. Well, that's been a little bit hit or miss for me, so I've had times where the screen was dim and it's still going at 90 hertz clearly, and Google's come out and said, hey, we're going to adjust the way that we deal with this, so they're answering the call on that as well. And then battery life has actually been really good on the XL for me, so I'm not seeing anything near what some of these other reviewers are seeing. Like, I don't know if I just use my phone strangely, or maybe if they're in like the honeymoon phase and they've got the phone screen on all the time or something, but in general, I've been going to sleep at night after, I don't know, somewhere around 16 to 18 hours of using the thing off the charger all day with 15 to 20%. Is it a battery champion? No, but it's plenty of battery to get me through the entire day without thinking anything about it or doing anything to save battery. So that's really not been a concern either. And then on the software side of things, one of the big issues I had with the 4 and 4 XL was the idea that I wasn't going to have a fingerprint to actually sign into stuff. So that would affect things like Square Cash and PayPal, my banking apps. All of those apps that I've gotten so used to just logging in with my fingerprint, now that's all gone because, you know, Android development takes forever. It's going to take these guys months to adopt the facial recognition APIs for this phone to actually work in those apps. But instead, Google's turned around and said, you know what? If you have any kind of biometric unlock on your app as of November 1st, if you don't include our Face Unlock API, you can't put any kind of biometric stuff on your app at all. So that covers a lot of the hardware and software fumblings that I saw with the 4 and 4 XL. So with things being fixed, or maybe hardware not being as bad as initially thought by some of the reviewers that I watched. But then there's all the things that I honestly didn't even think about until after I decided not to get the Pixel. And that kind of falls in the realm of fear of missing out, or FOMO. So first up, and probably most important, are Pixel Buds. Now, I'm not saying that Pixel Buds won't work well when they come out in the spring with other Android phones, or even iPhones for that matter. They probably will work great. But there could be features, and there could be, you know, maybe like lag-free pairing and all that kind of stuff that for sure, if Google's going to have a feature on those wireless earbuds, it's going to make sure it works on the Pixel first. And that was one of the pieces of hardware at that event that I was probably most excited about. And so I'd be really sad if those things came out and there were features and things about them that I didn't get to use because I didn't have a Pixel phone that I'd have to wait like 6 more months to get my hands on. The other huge thing that I didn't even think about, and the minute I mentioned this to Joe and Gabriel, they immediately said, okay, yeah, he's probably going back to the Pixel, and that was Stadia. Stadia has come out and said, hey, we're going to support Pixel 2, 2XL, 3, 3XL, 3A, 3AXL, 4, and 4XL at launch. And I've got the Founders Pack and all that kind of stuff, so I'm going to be ready to go on November 19th when Stadia rolls out. And the thought of not having a phone to be able to try out the experience on the go honestly just like shook me back into reality that, oh man, I'm going to miss out on something really cool by not having this phone. And then finally, the other things are kind of smaller, and they're things that we don't even know that are technically coming out yet. So little updates with Google Assistant, little updates with Solly, like what if they add some cool things and some cool features, or what if they make some sort of new interaction between the Pixel phones and the Pixelbook Go that I would be dying to try out or dying to test and would love to have my hands on, and wouldn't if I just didn't have the Pixel. But ultimately, I have to push all of those things aside, because in that initial video, I said all of those things and said, yeah, that's maybe enough for me to not pick this phone up. But really what it came down to was that feeling of lock-in. And I don't want to go over all of that again. You can watch the other video. We'll link it in the description. But just in general, I had started to feel like I had some sort of like lock-in, the way that Apple users feel with iPhone. And Google isn't really set up that way. Ultimately, Android's open source, Android's available on all kinds of hardware, and for a second, I started feeling like I didn't have any choice. Like the only choice I had was to go pick up a Pixel phone. And taking that step back and actually looking and going, well, you know, I can grab another phone because Android's Android. If I go get another piece of hardware that has Android 10 and has a lot of the same features and maybe some better hardware choices even, I can go and get this experience I've been having with this phone somewhere else, and it makes me not feel like I'm locked to having to buy Google's specific phone. But here's what I found out actually. When I went and picked up the 7T, I'm not taking anything away from that phone. It's a great phone. It performs really well, and it does a lot of cool things from a hardware perspective. But there's something just a little bit different about the experience of Android on that phone, even though it's a pretty clean install of Android, and using a Pixel phone. And even though the 7T in a lot of hardware perspectives and spec sheets and stuff like that would outdo the Pixel 4 and 4 XL, there was something unique about the experience on a Pixel, the way that Google envisions Android to work on a Pixel, that's just not quite the same anywhere else. And what happened was I had that phone and I missed the overall experience. So spec sheets and hardware and all those things matter to an extent, but eventually you have the phone in your hand and you have your daily grind and you're just doing your thing with your phone. And the way that phone makes you feel whenever you use it, that's the ultimate reason you should pick it. You shouldn't pick a phone based on the necessity of having to pick that phone in order to get certain features. And that's not the case with Android. I wasn't really missing out on a ton of features. Yeah, Project Solly was missing on the 7T, and you know, Google's cool camera magic was missing on the 7T. But ultimately, the base experience of using Android, there were some different quirks and things that I missed from the Pixel. But there's just this one thing about using a Pixel that's so difficult to even convey in words as we talk about it, and it's just the user experience. It's the ability to pick the phone up and kind of know what I'm going to get and know that I'm getting this Google-centric experience of what Android's like. And what I figured out as I used the 7T for a few days, I realized it's that part of it that I would miss with the Pixel more than anything else, more than any upcoming features, more than any hardware or software tweaks or anything like that. Ultimately, I found that the way that I use my phone, the things that I like about using my phone on a daily basis come down to I enjoy the Google experience of Android better than anyone else's. And that's not a knock to anyone else. It's just that's what I prefer. I like using Android the way Google envisions Android to be. Some people are going to like the way that OnePlus envisions Android. Some people are going to like the way LG envisions it or Samsung envisions it. But for me, for my stuff, for my services, for my daily use, I just can't get away from the fact that the Pixel phones deliver an overall user experience for me that is just better than anything else I can get my hands on. But guys, that's it for this one. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Go down there and hit that subscribe button and make sure and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted when we do other videos just like this one. Till next time, we'll see you.